In the past, before making major decisions, we always cared about what the world would think. As a result, the rivers belonging to India kept flowing outward. Now, India's water will flow for India's interests. Indian Prime Minister Modi made the above remarks after deciding to suspend the River Water Treaty. As soon as Modi finished speaking, the emotions of the on-site crowd immediately boiled over, with continuous shouts of "Long live India" and "Long live Modi." At this moment, Modi appears like a king whose every word is followed by hundreds, yet his decision has not brought tangible benefits to India. On the contrary, under Pakistan's strong counterattack, India has suffered significant losses. However, Modi has not reflected on his erroneous actions. Instead, he has chosen to cover up his failures with a high-profile campaign of moral victory. So, what is the true aim of Modi's current actions? Is it to make India a vibrant and developed major power, or to portray himself as a god controlling India? In 2014, when running for Indian Prime Minister, Modi proposed the Make in India plan, aiming to increase the proportion of manufacturing in GDP from 15% to 25% and create 20 million new jobs annually. In 2019, upon re-election, he again pledged to promote the construction of a new India, with goals including universal access to housing, water, and electricity by 2022, doubling farmers' incomes, and boosting India's GDP to $5 trillion. On the eve of the 2024 Indian general election, the Bharatiya Janata Party led by Modi released a campaign manifesto titled Modi's Commitments at its New Delhi headquarters. The manifesto claimed that India would become a developed nation by 2047 and be built into a global manufacturing hub. This is similar to China's goal of becoming a developed country by 2050, except that India aims to achieve it 3 years earlier. Over the past decade, Modi has inspired Indians yearning for a better future with one brilliant speech after another, while also consolidating his political status. According to public opinion polls, Modi's approval rating among the people remains above 75%. If all goes well, he may even begin a fourth term in 2029, surpassing Nehru and making new history. There is no doubt that Modi has become one of the pivotal leaders influencing India's future development. Over the more than 10 years he has been in office, India has indeed seen some impressive changes. Economically, according to statistics from the International Monetary Fund, India's GDP reached $3.89 trillion in 2024, maintaining its position as the world's fifth largest economy. The former colonizer Britain has long been left behind, and it is only a matter of time before India surpasses Japan and Germany. Diplomatically, Modi has firmly implemented India's hedging foreign policy. In international affairs, Modi almost never fully sides with any single party. During the Russia-Ukraine conflict, India did not respond to the calls of the U.S. and Europe to join sanctions against Russia. Instead, it took the opportunity to resell low-priced Russian oil and reaped substantial rewards. At the same time, Modi has insisted on building good relations with the United States and secured multiple investments from America. Additionally, as a core member of BRICS, India has leveraged its voice to constrain China's influence. It is evident that under Modi's leadership, India is attempting to play the role of a global leader in the multipolar world order. This grand narrative of a major power has, to some extent, boosted the national confidence of Indians. Moreover, Indian origin elites have frequently taken prominent positions on the world stage in recent years, such as former UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, former US Vice President Kamala Harris, Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella, Google CEO Sundar Pichai, and others. Their existence seems to further demonstrate India's influence as a major power. Therefore, under Modi's leadership, India does appear to be a vibrant and significant nation. However, the superficial hustle and bustle can hardly conceal the deep-seated crises. In all three of Modi's terms, revitalizing India's manufacturing industry has been placed at the top of the agenda. The harsh reality, however, is that India has been turned into a graveyard for foreign capital under Modi. The Modi government once launched the Make in India 2.0 plan to attract foreign investment, even offering various tempting incentives such as government subsidies and tax breaks. Yet, squeezed by domestic enterprises and facing an empty treasury, the Modi government has treated foreign capital as sitting ducks. Many multinational corporations have encountered huge tax penalties or asset freezes in India. For example, China's Xiaomi was fined $80 million for tax evasion and had $700 million in assets frozen. South Korea's Samsung was fined $600 million over tariff disputes, with its executives personally fined $81 million. The U.S. based Volkswagen was fined $2.80 billion. Oppo was ordered to repay $600 million in tariffs, while Vivo had its bank accounts blocked. Nokia, Walmart, and other companies have also been penalized for similar reasons. As a result, foreign investors have become terrified of India. Data from the Reserve Bank of India shows that foreign direct investment has dropped sharply since 2016, and the pace of foreign companies leaving India has accelerated annually. Over the past decade, more than 2,000 foreign-funded enterprises have withdrawn from India. Affected by this, the proportion of manufacturing in GDP has dropped from 17% to 14.3%, still a considerable distance from Modi's promised 25%. The pledged 100 million manufacturing jobs have also not been fulfilled. As for the so-called Make in India, it is actually just assembled in India relying on China's industrial chain. In 2024, India imported $101.7 billion worth of goods from China, but only exported $16.7 billion to China, resulting in a trade deficit as high as $85 billion. Once it loses China's industrial chain, India's related supplies in industrial fields such as electronic equipment will be cut off. In such a situation, continuing to boast about building a global manufacturing center is undoubtedly self-deception. Not to mention that since Modi took office, India's GDP compound annual growth rate has continued to decline, and the number of unemployed has continued to rise. Data from India's Center for Monitoring the Indian Economy shows that the unemployment rate among India's 20 to 24-year-old youth exceeds 40%, and this demographic represents a major source of instability. If this trend continues, how can India ever hope to become a developed nation? In reality, whether a government's policies can truly bring about national change is most keenly felt by the public. Yet paradoxically, despite the Modi government's mishandling of the economy, its approval ratings have remained high. The key to this lies in Modi's control over Hindu voters. With a total population of over 1.4 billion, Hindus account for more than 80% of India's population. Therefore, by securing the support of Hindus, one can naturally win elections. Modi has long understood this, and he has mastered a method to control Hindu voters, namely, elevating the status of Hinduism while creating objects of hostility, a tactic that most easily unites people. These targets of hostility can take many forms. The first is Indian Muslims. Modi rose from a low-caste background in India's grassroots to become prime minister precisely by manipulating religious tensions. In 1992, fanatical Hindus violently demolished the Babri Mosque in Ayodhya, a 500-year-old mosque and one of the holy sites for local Muslims. The incident sparked severe clashes between the two sides, resulting in over 2,000 casualties. It was through this conflict that Modi's Bharatiya Janata Party rapidly rose to prominence. In 2019, Hindu groups obtained ownership of the mosque site through a Supreme Court ruling and began constructing a Ram temple on the original location. When the temple opened to the public in 2024, Modi personally presided over the consecration ceremony, a move that garnered fanatical support from Hindus. Meanwhile, Muslim communities held large-scale marches and protests. Notably, religious conflicts erupt frequently during Indian general elections, ultimately translating into electoral support for Modi. Beyond targeting domestic Muslims, the second mechanism for diverting tensions is naturally Pakistan. The two nations have endured continuous conflicts since their partition. After taking office, Modi repeatedly provoked firefights to gain support from Hindus, using the illusion of military triumphs to cultivate an image of strength. The current India-Pakistan conflict has unfolded against the backdrop of a tariff war, with the Modi government's missteps leading to a worrying outlook for economic development. Meanwhile, numerous contradictions accumulated domestically are showing signs of converging into a potential outbreak. Therefore, Modi orchestrated an attack. I have no evidence for this, but it's my personal reasoning. First, the timing of the terrorist attack coincided with the period immediately after Vance's visit to India ended. Second, upon hearing about the incident, Modi abruptly ended his visit to the Middle East and immediately declared Pakistan as the mastermind without conducting an investigation. This is clearly unreasonable. Therefore, I believe this is an attack orchestrated by India to collaborate with the United States in destabilizing Asia, while also attempting to divert domestic contradictions. And by using drastic means such as cutting off water supplies to force Pakistan to act, then achieving the goal of stabilizing society and consolidating power through a victory. However, everything that followed exceeded Modi's expectations. In reality, Modi could have admitted the failure of the war and shifted the blame to India's military-industrial system, taking the opportunity to launch a purge of the military-industrial sector. But this approach carried too much risk, as the opposition Congress Party might take advantage to fight back. Therefore, Modi chose the safest and most effective way to maintain his rule, controlling the emotions of the Indian public with a non-existent victory. So, by examining a series of Modi's words and deeds since taking office, it is not difficult to draw a conclusion. He has portrayed himself as a spiritual leader of Hinduism and deeply controlled the thoughts and emotions of believers. Isn't this about shaping himself into a god of India? Moreover, Modi himself remains celibate, abstains from meat, and severs worldly desires. Isn't this preparing to become a divine figure long ago? Therefore, if one day India becomes a theocratic state similar to Iran, I would not be surprised at all.